about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one thing I don't like to do is lose. I don't like to lose. But I know how to lose. And I know how to lose really well. In fact, I could teach people how to lose. I am so good at writing. I could probably write a book on how to lose. I know how to lose. I could be a loser pretty easily. And I even taught my kids how to lose. Because if they didn't win, I didn't want them to crumble. And I see what happens when people don't know how to lose. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. People screw up. They screw their family over, their finances over, because they don't know how to lose. And one of the first instincts we have when we lose something is we want to get it back. Some of us are successful at getting it back, but the average gambler, once you lose your money, not going to be able to get it back. And then you dig yourself into a deeper hole. And if you don't know how to lose, I can't teach you all in one segment, but it involves 1, expecting a loss, 2, having a backup plan for that loss, 3, seeing the good and what you could take out of it to make it a positive and a win. All right, I'll write a book on it. I have enough stuff to write a book on it. Yeah, okay. How to lose. All right, I'm good at losing. I lose a lot. And it's not easy. It hurts to lose. But when you lose something, you could make the damage worse trying to get that back. So I'm looking at what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. This war needs to end. I think we're all sick of funding it. We're sick of people dying. Ukraine needs peace. Russia started this, and they bullied their way in, raped, plundered. There's prisoners sent to Siberia, we're being told. Just horrific things have happened, and there's been casualties on both sides. We need this to end. The problem is Ukraine has lost some of their land. And if they are going to try to get Vladimir Zelensky, Russian President Vladimir Zelensky, and Vladimir Putin to agree, somebody has to be okay with a loss. And if they're not okay with a loss, they're never going to reach an agreement. Also, one of them needs to stop continuing to bombard and bomb Kyiv and Ukraine and throw drones their way. So as much as I think Trump is going to be able to do this, and I still feel he's going to make this happen, and we've gotten farther than we've gotten in the previous 3.5 years, it's not going to be easy. And so if I was helping, Steve Witkoff, and Senator Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, what I would do, because, obviously Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainians are mad, and they should be mad. They lost territory that they should have never lost. Putin comes in and takes it. Putin's not going to give that back. They might be able to get part of it back. No, because Putin doesn't want to go back to Russia and get killed or overthrown. He wants to say, look, this is what we did. And so Ukraine lost Crimea during the Obama administration. They've lost a lot of their strategic land. So what I would recommend is how to find a win. All right, because if Ukraine lost very important land for them, Ukrainians I don't think have a problem with still fighting till their death. They are tough cookies. They are very loyal and patriotic. And they'll still fight. Just they need us, our money, and they need the EU and everybody else supporting them to do it. But they got the grit and the guts. So how do we give them a win when they lost land? Well, getting part of it back could help. Giving them something new. If Russia keeps the land, what can Ukraine get from Russia? What access? Is there a port? Is there an island they own? Is there something else that they could take? And the biggest win right now that is being touted and suggested is the NATO-like protection. If NATO doesn't accept Ukraine, then all of us involved are going to pledge that we will be there to have your back. Now, that's a huge win. The only problem is, as American troops, nobody wants our American troops to have to go there because nobody trusts Putin. They think Putin's going to reinvade. But giving Ukraine these types of securities, giving Ukraine abilities to, because Vladimir Zelensky needs to come back to his people saying, well, this is what I got out of this. Because nobody wants to surrender. When Hitler came and they took everything, it was surrendering. And it was, we're just going to kind of, cut our losses and pray it doesn't go worse. Ukraine isn't there yet. They don't have to surrender. They're close, though. If America pulls out and other countries pull out, they don't have the money. So what could be a win? And so whether it's the NATO security, whether it's them getting other sorts of strategic areas, whether it's them getting some of their land back, in order to negotiate something like this, somebody needs to feel like they gained something. And I look at how kids are raised and what we're doing with these, everybody gets a trophy and everybody's amazing and everybody's this. Why are we teaching people how to lose? Now, what's actually some of the most valuable coach-player interaction is after a game. When the team loses and they go back into the locker room with the coach, the most valuable time they have and the most valuable advice they're getting is during that loss. You don't learn to win without losing. You can't win without losing. You can't succeed without failing. And so what those coaches do and say during that time is crucial. And I'm not a football coach. I'd love to be. But one, I would say, and look, let's own this, okay? We lost. Whether it was bad ref calls, whether it was bad plays, whether it was, we'll sit and dissect why, and we'll learn from it. All right? But you could be upset that you lost. Let's feel it. We lost. Let's own it. All right, we lost. But what are we going to get out of this? What did we learn? Are we now better positioned for the playoffs because we saw the mistakes we made? We saw what these other teams are doing. We saw their weak points. All right, this is how this is a positive. And that's how that's why the NFL isn't hiring me. That's how I do things. 1-877-Daliah, don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we have some breaking news. There is an active shooter situation at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. Right now, the university is on lockdown after an active shooter was reported on the college campus. Students and staff were told to run, hide, or fight in an alert issued on Thursday morning. The Hamilton County branch of the State Emergency Management and Homeland Security urged people to avoid the campus until further notice, saying it was on lockdown. Chattanooga police said that they are working with UTC Police Department, the university, to confirm shots fired. Reports were called in. At the time, though, thank God they have not located any victims. So we'll keep you posted. There's a large police presence already on the ground. Hopefully nobody got hurt. We'll keep you posted on that. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I've received a couple emails on people's discontent with not the show, with the, probably with the show too, but with some of these insurance companies that are shared among others. I don't want to name any names, but there's been some individuals that have been kind of upset with getting that insurance and feeling it's not covering what it needs to for the money they're spending. And so this is my advice. When you're about to get an insurance policy, you're looking at some of the less expensive ones, is you can't go at it thinking about, well, how do I feel today? I feel good. So if you ask me, Daliah, are you going to buy an extra policy? I'm like, you know what? I feel good. Now, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'll bone up on my vitamin C this winter. Maybe I'll get a vaccine for flu. I'll protect myself. I'm good. Yet, tomorrow could be a completely different day. My knee could be bothering me going, wow, this is the year I'm going to get my knee replaced. Or something else can happen. And so the big mistake we make is if we're not feeling well, we're not really actively researching insurance companies, things like that. We don't do that until we have energy. We feel better. Now we're feeling better. So we're like, okay, this is good. This is my baseline. And I see time and time again, people will buy a plan, and understandably so. This isn't your fault. Obamacare really screwed up our insurance plans, where now you have very high deductibles, very high premiums. And I've been very fortunate to not be sick, but I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I've wasted because I bought a plan on the Obamacare market, and the rates were ridiculous. The deductible was ridiculous, so it never kicked in. How a deductible works is the insurance company will only start paying your medical bills once you drop $10,000 or $12,000 or whatever the deductible is. See, before Obamacare, your deductible could be $250, $500. I remember there being plans where they were really high deductible for $2,000. But no, gosh, if I could find a $2,000 deductible plan, I would take that in a heartbeat. But that's what Obamacare did. So now we have these crappy plans. So you have these companies that work with religious groups, et cetera, which is a smart idea, where they cost share and it ends up being cheaper. The problem is I've seen patients and I've had listeners who are very frustrated because they are promoting that they're going to have access to telemedicine. They're going to have access to a doctor. They're going to have access to prescriptions. And they think, well, that's all I need. I don't need anything more. Until they call the telemedicine company. The telemedicine company says, whoa. This isn't something we could treat online. And so I'm seeing a lot of patients where they really need a regular, primary care provider to take this on. Or they need to get to an urgent care or ER. And they say, I can't. I have these shared insurances. I can't go. And I'm like, but you could only do so much on telemedicine where you need an exam. You need stitches. Right? You need a splint or a cast. And so some of these companies make it sound like a telemedicine doctor can do it all. Now some are. where they're like, you know what, just, I don't know, butterfly it and whatever. So some patients are happy. But I had one patient call up saying the doctor never told them to go and get an x-ray, go to urgent care. They finally did. They had a broken ankle, and now the orthopedic surgeon, says it's too late to operate on. So now what do they do? And I'm like, why didn't you go to the urgent care to begin with? Yeah. Well, the doctor said I didn't have to. I know, but you called telemedicine, and telemedicine's fantastic, but people are getting frustrated because it's a different way of doing things. Having been an ER doc and an urgent care doctor, you got advice from me after I examined you. So the advice was a lot more specific. A lot of patients are also frustrated with us telemedicine doctors because you'll tell us you're having a symptom. And I want to not misdiagnose and say it's one simple thing. I want to say, well, these are other things you need to look for. So I had a patient call up saying they had acid reflux, but it's causing them shortness of breath. So I had to tell them, okay, this might not be acid reflux. Are you having chest pain? Yeah, which is acid reflux, which is heartburn. I go, but it's pain in the chest area or pain in the stomach area? It's pain in the chest area. So now this person's having pain in the chest area and having difficulty breathing. I'm like, this could be an abnormal heart rhythm. It could be a heart attack. It could be pericarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. Could be myocarditis. Could be pneumonia. Could be food is stuck in your esophagus. You could be having dysphagia. You could be having esophagitis. Could be. So now I'm telling them it could be a slew of things. And they're like, well, the over-the-counter acid medicine isn't working, so just give me acid medication. And then I say, well, I can't, because if this isn't acid reflux, you could be having something more serious. And we speak a lot about this because apparently telemedicine is now the number one used form of medicine by Americans, which is really cool. And I love the fact that you could reach me, late night on Christmas. You're able to talk to me, especially since I work all holidays. You're able to talk to doctors like me where your doctor's office is closed, and we could give you advice. But when people get frustrated is if our advice is you need to get seen. And now you have an insurance plan that promised that they're going to be able to take care of you very inexpensively, but now you have to go to an urgent care, and now it's going to cost more money. So what I recommend you do is whenever you are looking for your plan, you need to come up with worst case scenario. So what I also do with my kids and husband is, okay, well, let's say somebody falls and breaks their arm or elbow. Okay, which facility would we be able to use? I understand my gynecologist is on my plan. I love my gynecologist, but who's going to be the orthopedist if we need an orthopedist? Who's going to be a surgeon if one of us has a gallbladder issue? If one of us has an ulcer or appendicitis? Do we like the hospitals that this plan is associated with? Because you don't know if you're going to have appendicitis. What if you have a heart issue? Oh, I don't want to think about that. See, I get that a lot from my family. I don't want to think about that. That you're depressing us, Mom. Well, no. Look, I'm trying to come up with a healthcare plan. I want to know what are some things that we need to be aware of. What if somebody spikes your drink or gives you your vaping and there's, I don't know, fentanyl in it? I need, I have to think of these things. Now I'm a doctor, so, not fun. That's why doctors are more stressed. And they say doctors are some of the highest levels of depression. I'm fortunate to not, because I look at what happens out there and I'm like, gosh, I'm lucky. But we have to think about things like this. And what many people do is they say, you know what, the money I'm saving, I will put away into a medical fund, which is a decent strategy. I mean, many of you are spending way less than I am on health insurance, and you might be doing it right. But if my health insurance is costing for my family $3-4 a month, and you have been able to limit that to $1,000 a month, are you taking that extra money that you're saving and putting it into an account saying this is for medical? No. The average, most of the time we don't have that extra money. So what we do is we say, you know what? I'll just, save the money. Hopefully stocks go up and hopefully nothing happens. But if you have a choice between a regular Obamacare expensive insurance or a shared insurance, a community-based insurance that where it's shared costs, then you really need to be putting the money you're saving into a separate account that is for your medical emergencies, because you will have to go to an urgent care or ER. And we don't want people getting worse at home because they picked a plan that doesn't cover it. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I forget where I heard this from, but I think it was a couple years ago where some patients wanted to ask if their doctor was using AI, wanted to verify that the doctor was using the most high tech and was not just relying on their brain because they trusted the computer more. And I just spoke about this earlier in the week or last week about how AI, I don't know if it's going to make us doctors better, because I think we'll get lazy and we're not going to trust our instincts. And once you not, do your art the way you do the art of medicine and you start relying on a computer, you can make mistakes. And I spoke about how I'm noticing with a lot of telemedicine that there's AI technology that will recommend what the diagnosis is for you. And if a doctor's lazy, they'll be like, okay, great, thank you. AI said this. I could use it to back me up in a court case. I'm safe. I won't get sued. Let's just go with the AI and move on. It's the safest thing to do. And no. Because I'm noticing some of these AI recommendations are wrong. They're wrong. And any medical student who's listening, please, for the love of God, do your own work. Do not trust. I would tell medical students, too, you might get, let's say, an X-ray read where the read says normal. Look at the film yourself. I can't tell you how many times I found mistakes by radiologists. And I could play Monday morning quarterback because I'm with the patient. I know there's something up. There was my son actually had a bone growth on it was benign, thank God, on his arm. And the radiologist read it as a normal arm, because I had bilateral arms in the view. And he said, all normal. And I'm like, no, it's not. I could even see it from here. Can you look? Well, of course, because I was concentrating on that. So EKGs would give an interpretation. I never looked at those because I would look at the EKG myself and then I would see what they suggested. And a lot of times I picked up more than what the computer picked up. So what do the studies show? Are the studies showing that AI is better? Well, there's been a lot of studies saying AI is picking up on things radiologists are missing, mammograms, etc. Well, this was an interesting finding. They say, nope, the accuracy dropped with AI, and that they may weaken doctor skills. Now, this pertains to colonoscopies. This study was done by European researchers, and they looked at if AI changes the behavior of GI specialists while conducting a colonoscopy and how their performance dipped. And the research followed clinicians at 4 endoscopy centers in Poland participating in Accept Artificial Intelligence and Colonoscopy and Cancer Prevention Trial, where AI tools for polyp detection were introduced at the end of 2021. Now, the colonoscopies at these centers were randomly selected to either be administered with AI or without AI. And the researchers gauged the quality of how that colonoscopy was delivered by comparing the identification of tumors, or the adenoma detection rate, ADR, 3 months before and 3 months after implementing the AI. So the time frame was between September 2021 and March 2022. 1,443 patients underwent non-AI assisted colonoscopies, obviously before AI got big. Then the study found that the tumor detection rate dropped significantly, going from 28.4% before AI was in use to 22.4% after AI was used. Now, the study was published in the journal Lancet Gastroenterology and Hepatology, but the researchers say exposure to AI might reduce the ADR of standard non-AI assisted colonoscopy, suggesting a negative effect on the endoscopist behavior, meaning it could mess us up and screw us up. I don't want that. Don't be messy with us. Okay, that's not how we were trained. I've done colonoscopies. I've done sigmoidoscopies. I've read mammograms. I've read CAT scans. I've done biopsies. Look, I don't mind AI adding to what I have concluded or deduced. But are we getting lazy? Are we saying, you know what, I'll just go with the AI? And I'm already seeing doctors do this, and this is driving me crazy. They say this study highlights the paradox in medicine. According to Fox News Digital, Harvey Castro, an emergency physician and specialist in AI, says artificial intelligence can help us detect cancer, but it can also weaken our own ability to see what matters when the tool is not available. Even a 1% change can affect colon cancer survival for thousands of patients. So, look, we are giving AI too much credit for what it is. Yes, it may later become what we see in Terminator 2. I mean, AI does have that potential, but it's not there yet. I'm seeing AI wrong time and time again. And that's not, so I've got to be careful not to trigger this, but I asked my phone, you know what happened? I think I asked my phone to, set my alarm, whatever. And I don't want to say, hey, because my phone's going to wake up. And I have a man's voice. And my husband heard that. He's like, really, you picked the dude? I go, yeah, I didn't want to hear the British woman. Of course I use a dude. So when the dude goes, your alarm is already set, I say thank you. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, and my husband's like, you really tell him thank you? I go, yeah, he sounds sexy. And then I asked Siri if they find me sexy. Right? And they said, they said, you're perfect. Just the way you are. Okay, no, I'm not perfect. So that's already a ding, and then I asked him, if I'm attractive, and they basically talked about, how I'm beautiful or a certain way or whatever. Again, wrong. So, these things are not answering to the highest, because again, our AI is trained for what society wants. Society doesn't want people committing suicide. Society doesn't want to blame. It's all about liability, and liability messed up medicine. Because with all the lawsuits that happened, especially bringing us to the point where St. Paul pulled out of a lot of markets by 2002, now you had doctors saying, you know what, I'm not going to get sued, so you're getting the CAT scan. You're getting the MRI. And I don't want to get in trouble for missing a cancer or missing a tumor. And that changed the way we did medicine. I remember as a student, I would give report, or I would present to the attending saying, so I think it's appendicitis, so I'm going to order a CAT scan. And he yelled at me, then why are you ordering a CAT scan? Well, because I think the patient has appendicitis. He goes, you think? You should be able to figure that out without a CAT scan. Doctors were able to do that before the CAT scan. And, I told him why I thought it was. And he said, you're only using that CAT scan to verify and confirm your diagnosis. I go, well, yeah, that's kind of what I was going to do anyway. But yeah, I get your point. Because I wasn't ordering it to be, I was right. The guy had appendicitis. But he wanted to stress to everybody in the group that you don't just order the test for poops and giggles. If you're thinking lymphoma, if you're thinking a mass, if you're thinking an aneurysm, you should already have that diagnosis plus a differential, just in case you're wrong, and then use that scan and test. So 1, you're ordering the right test, and then 2, you're verifying what you should have clinically been able to figure out. And we can't be lazy and we can't be stupid. Remember, there was that lawyer that got in trouble in Australia because he used AI to cite cases and quotes for a legal brief, and they never existed. They were wrong. Where did AI get this? AI is designed to not tick somebody off, not get a company sued. It's not to give us the best information. It's to make sure that whatever company created it, it doesn't come back to haunt them. That's the primary goal. So if you're working with that goal, then that it's not going to be what you need. You're thinking that AI is there to make sure it never misses anything and to catch anything you do. But if that's not how it was designed, it's going to fall short. So we need to be careful. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So when people ask what was the hardest thing I ever had to do in medical school, delivering babies was fun. Surgery was fun. Doing the 36-hour shifts was hard. Very hard. But one of the most difficult things was trying to discern if somebody was going to be suicidal. Talking to somebody who was depressed. And I remember when I was a first-year medical student, as a first year, they already had us speaking to veterans like World War II vets, because World War II vets were around still at the time. We still have World War II vets, but we spoke to some Vietnam vets, and we would go to the VA, and then other individuals and older individuals who would let us as medical students take a history. God bless them, because I was always like, I know you have other things to do, and you're so patient with me. Sorry, I have to get through this whole sheet. And they were really, really nice, and I was always worried about other people's feelings. But when they taught us as a first-year medical student how to ask if somebody was suicidal, that was tough. And it's because I remember we were talking amongst ourselves going, I don't want to give them the idea. Oh, I didn't think about that. That was a good idea. Well, we learned after our first month or two in medical school that get that out of your head. You are not going to give somebody an idea and plant in their head the idea to kill themselves. So ask. And they actually train us to ask if there's any suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation. Do you feel like killing yourself or hurting yourself? Do you feel like killing or hurting others? Now, again, that is still a very difficult question to ask. Well, over time, I've evolved into, rather than just saying, do you want to kill yourself? I don't do that, like we did as first-year medical students. We learned how to ask that wasn't as cold and difficult to answer. And apparently there's a lot of debate on kids being screened for mental health illness, and teachers, educators, or doctors, or parents asking the kid if they are suicidal, if they're depressed. You have some experts saying, quit doing that. Quit asking these kids. You're making them depressed, asking them about it. And you have others saying, no, we have, quadrupled suicide rates and mental illness in kids. Somebody needs to ask. Well, most parents aren't trained in identifying how their kid could be depressed or suicidal. Most educators aren't trained in that either, because of course they have to do everything else they're doing. We doctors are trained, but kids aren't going to the doctor anymore. They're going to a pharmacy for their shots, and they're being seen online. I can't tell you how many sports physicals parents have called up asking me to do a sports physical over a telephone. I'm like, have they seen a doctor? Somebody's got to listen to their heart, talk to them, get an idea of, how they're doing in school. Screen for assault. There's things we're supposed to do that we can do when we see a patient we can't do over a phone. And so when I hear people say, stop asking kids if they're depressed, I have an answer to that. One is we should be screening for depression and anxiety. We should try to get these kids help. But there's also a better way of doing it. In medicine and now in society, it's all about the label. It's all about, I have this disorder, or I am this, and I am this, and I have. And so now, back off. I could sue. I could keep my job. It's all about coming up with that umbrella or that cloak of a diagnosis so that people leave you alone, or there's liability, or and when you say, oh, are you depressed? Do you have depression? Now you're talking to a kid. That might not be the way to go. So you might want to talk to the child about how they sleep. Do you like going to sleep, or do you fear going to sleep? Maybe they're having nightmares. What do you think about food? Do you like food? Which is your favorite food? Oh, I don't eat. I don't like food. Okay. Now, what is it about the food you don't like? I don't know. A child not eating could be a sign of depression. Tell me about school. What do you think about school? How? And slowly let them open up about things. And then if you do want to know if they are suicidal, I don't open with, are you suicidal? Do you have suicidal ideation? You don't open with that. You say, have you ever thought what life would be like if you weren't here, if you were gone? And if somebody says, yeah, I think about that all the time, then you ask, why would you not be here? What would, why would you leave Earth early? Why, well, abducted by aliens. Okay, well, then you can investigate that. Well, I feel like I'm going to die of something. Or, have you ever thought of taking your own life? Have you ever thought of ending it? Have you ever thought of, not that I'm telling you to do it, right? This is why people get nervous about that. But, have you ever felt that of all your options, one of the options to deal with this stress you're dealing with and this problem would be you ending your life? See, and there's ways to get them to open up and talk about that. Now, some people are fearful. They won't tell you because they don't want it on record. They don't want to be thrown into a hospital. They don't want to be lose, being able to, protect themselves or have a job. And so some people won't open up about that. But your job is to allow an environment as a medical professional. Don't do this if you're not trained, to let them talk about it. And one thing I tell patients is thoughts of suicide, thinking what would happen if you weren't on this earth and weren't alive or ending your life. The average human has had that thought, not because they wanted to do it or act on it, but because they look at their choices saying, well, I could do this, or I could just completely not deal with it. And so the thought will come to your mind. That's not mental illness. But if you act upon it and you think that is the only option, you need help. So the follow-up question is if you were going to end your life, how would you do it? Now, if they go, I haven't even thought of that. It's not a serious thought. It's random. But if they go, well, yeah, I would use this prescription. I would mix it with this. I would do this. If they have a more intricate plan, then they've been thinking about it more. Now, we doctors are required to report, especially if we think somebody else could be hurt. And so when you ask somebody, have you ever thought, do you have any homicidal ideation? Have you ever thought of killing somebody? Of course, they're going to say, no, no, no. So to bring it up, we might bring it up a little bit more roundabout. Say, has somebody ever made you mad where, you really felt like you wanted to punch him? Yeah. Did you feel like you wanted to run him over? Do you ever feel like your life would be better if they weren't on this planet? Have you ever, have your thoughts ever taken you to, planning something or making that happen? Now, a lot of people are smart enough to know that you're kind of going about it, a certain way. But, if you have a child that you're worried is going to be the next mass shooter, I mean, we professionals have to get that information somehow. And are these bullies making you so mad that you wish they weren't around or they weren't alive? So I'm not saying to ask, to do that form of questioning, get these kids help. But the idea of don't talk to these kids because you can put the idea in their head, no, you're going to miss mental illness and you're going to miss a way to intervene. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.